Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Would you please stand for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Do we have any changes, amendments, additions, or deletions to the agenda items today? No. Nothing? Oh, good. All right, then we'll move on to approval of the minutes from the executive session for collective bargaining from February 25th, 2019, regular school board meeting, and February 25th, 2019. Superintendent?
I recommend approval of the minutes from the executive session for collective bargaining, February 25th, 2019, and the regular school board meeting, February 25th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. All right, moving on to representation, the district spotlight, Teacher of the Year, Ms. Owens.
Here for Ms. Owens tonight is Amani Williams, and as she comes forward, we're very excited tonight to celebrate and recognize our 3 finalists for Teacher of the Year. We're going to watch the video, and then we're going to ask them to come and be recognized.
Lake County School District is a place where our students are always learning and growing into the leaders of tomorrow. We are fortunate in our district to have outstanding teachers at every grade level in every school, helping our students to reach their full potential. But each year, we take a moment to recognize those who have gone above and beyond the call of duty, and we designate them as our Teachers of the Year. Each school chooses such a teacher and showers him or her with appreciation and accolades. Among those teachers, we then select 3 finalists in our search for a district-wide Teacher of the Year. Michael Tarquin, a choir and theater teacher at Windy Hill Middle School, was one of the finalists for our 2019-2020 Teacher of the Year.
We work on the same things together. In reality, I learn just as much from them as they learn from me. And as long as I feel that way, I think that they're going to understand that I enjoy being with them, and together we can create amazing things, not just here on this campus, not just for them, but for all kinds of people.
Daniel Dylocker, a technology and robotics teacher at East Ridge Middle School, was another finalist for our 2019-2020 Teacher of the Year.
There are so many people who inspire me to be a better teacher, and those include the students themselves. I'm inspired by their creativity, how hard they work to achieve their goals. It makes me want to be a better teacher. I'm inspired by the other teachers that I work with when they have amazing ideas, and I just want to try to take a piece of it and incorporate it into my own classroom. You really have to find what works for each individual student. Not everything works for all. So you really have to tailor lessons and activities so that all kids can learn in their own way. And I try to set my classroom up so that students are learning by exploring.
Emerging from the category of finalists to become Lake County Schools Teacher of the Year for 2019-2020 was Kamille Chapman, an 8th grade math teacher at Mount Dora Middle School. She has been a teacher for more than 30 years and had planned to ride the way to retirement in a couple of years. But somewhere along the way, she became inspired all over again, and then she became an inspiration to others.
The quality that Ms. Chapman demonstrates is her caring for students.
If you work together, if you find a group of people that you can work well with, and you share jobs and you do lesson plans together, you plan together, you do the discipline together, it makes life so much easier, and it makes it more enjoyable. It makes it better for the kids. It makes it better for you. You build bonds with your coworkers.
What's the secret to Ms. Chapman's success? Building relationships with students. She focuses more on improving the lives of students, and good academic results are a natural byproduct. She has been known to invite a troublesome student to have a pizza lunch with her instead of immediately resorting to writing a referral. She sees it as an investment in her students. Often, they talk, resolve the issues, and move forward with behavioral and academic improvements. For all of these reasons and more, Ms. Chapman received the top honor at the celebration dinner last month. Among her many prizes was a new Volkswagen Tiguan from Jenkins Auto Group in Leesburg. And now she is in the running for the Florida Department of Education Teacher of the Year Award. Finalists for that statewide award will be named in May, and the winner announced in July.
As a school, we're very proud. She represents not only herself, our school, but Lake County, and I think she would be an excellent Teacher of the Year. I love you.
Lake County Schools is the destination district for providing students with individual opportunities to excel. Stay tuned for the next district spotlight, where we will continue shining a light on what makes Lake great.
Thank you, Amani. We are honored tonight to have with us Mr. Michael Tarquin. If you'd please stand along with your principal, William Roberts from Windy Hill Middle School. The board would like for you, I'm going to introduce the rest of you who are here, and then if you wouldn't mind coming at the board, we'd just love another opportunity to shake your hand, just tell you how proud we are that you're representing us as finalists. Our other finalist is Daniel Dylocker. He is from East Ridge Middle School, and he is here with his principal, Jamie Sidoric. And our 2019 Teacher of the Year, Ms. Kamille Chapman, is here. Along with her principal, Mr. Jake Stein, who just happens to be our Principal of the Year. And so if you all would come forward and let the board recognize you, please. Come around with you.
I would just say also that we want to wish Kamille all the best luck. It'd be nice for Lake County to be represented twice as the state representative, so that would be great. All right. Moving on to public input. We have 2 public input cards tonight. And forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Kamari Paleri? Okay, Kamari. I'm sorry.
Dear Lake County School Board, I speak to you as a speech-language pathologist and as a parent who has a son with a language impairment. My question is, how would you like it if your son or daughter was evaluated, diagnosed, treated, and whose eligibility was determined for fluency, speech, and/or language disorder by an unqualified individual? How would you like it if your son or daughter's eligibility for the Autism Spectrum Disorder program was determined by an unqualified individual on an ASD team? You wouldn't. How would you like to see speech-language pathologists come and leave your child's life due to inappropriate pay conditions not worthy of their education, skills, certification, state, national licensures, continuing education requirements to maintain their license? In Lake County, a communication disorders major with a bachelor's degree can step in and take the role of a speech-language pathologist without any training, experience in evaluating, diagnosing, and providing interventions. They have 2 years to enroll in a graduate program where they begin their training. How can this be, you may ask? Because there's a shortage of speech-language pathologists in our field to meet the needs. But this does not have to be so. If in Lake County the speech-language pathologists were treated as equal to occupational therapists. Now, on top of the fact that we have done all of the requirements on a teacher's pay scale, and we are not teachers, we are speech-language pathologists. We are billing Medicaid. Speech language pathologists are bringing in 85% of the funds coming in by Medicaid reimbursements. Now we are bringing in the funds for Medicaid. Now the funds are available. As of right now, we are 22 speech language pathologists with their Cs. That means endorsed by ASHA with continuing education. There is 18 speech language pathologists with their masters only, not required to have continuing education. 4 bachelor's degree, not required to have a continuing education. 4 grandfathered LSOPs, and 17 are contracted out by private companies because we cannot attract qualified speech language pathologists. I propose justice. I propose a speech language pathologist to pay on a pay scale equal to an occupational therapist so that we can attract qualified therapists, keep them, and see drastic improvements in our children's education, services, rehabilitation, as this absolutely impacts their educational process. I know because I'm a mother of a child with a language impairment. If it wasn't for the fabulous therapists that saw my son, evaluated, treated, and with my eyes on him, because yes, I am here and I love Lake County. I love it. And I love working here. And every child, I swear to the living God that every child that comes into my classroom, into my office, when I see them, I see my son. I promise to uphold every continuing education course and do my best and give my best. That's what I ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Cross.
Good evening. Having worked in Lake County as a speech language pathologist, or SLP, for 16 years, I can tell you how wonderfully rewarding it is to see the students on my caseload improve their speech and language skills and thus improve their grades in the classroom. These speech and language skills are the underpinnings of all language-based curriculum, including reading, speaking, writing, vocabulary, auditory processing, comprehension, grammar, and even the language concepts for mathematics. SLPs have been categorized incorrectly by the school district. During our educational training in graduate school, we did not take pedagogy classes to prepare us to be classroom teachers. SLPs are not required to hold a teaching certificate from the Department of Education in order to work in the schools. We can have a medical license through the Department of Health Services from the state of Florida. SLPs are not teachers, yet we have been placed on the teacher pay scale for years. SLPs do not have classrooms. We have caseloads, very high caseloads, where we push in or pull students from classrooms into our therapy rooms and provide evidence-based therapy. Recruiting and hiring more SLPs to work for the district would help provide better therapy to our students by reducing the number of students seen in a typical speech and language therapy group. A good way to recruit and retain quality SLPs to our district is to offer a competitive pay scale, similar to that of other therapists, such as occupational and physical therapists. These other therapists generally have less students on their caseloads, yet get paid up to $10,000 more money a year than SLPs. This makes no sense when all therapists capture for Medicaid services now. The school district then receives one check from all therapies, the OTs, the PTs, and the speech pathologists, where the speech pathologists by far generate the most Medicaid revenue for the school district. When I say far, I mean SLPs generate 80 to 85% of that Medicaid check for therapists. And that statistic was given to us by the project manager of Medicaid for the county. Having a more appropriate pay scale would attract talented SLPs who were passionate about working with children in their community to make a positive difference. Providing an appropriate pay scale will also retain the quality SLPs who currently work for the school district and enjoy their jobs, thus minimizing the need to hire from contract companies. When Lake County loses quality speech and language pathologists who are considered in critical shortage, when we lose them to other school districts, to medical settings or clinics, that loss is very detrimental to our students' progress in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment if I could. I know the board's aware that we've spent some time with our SLPs getting more familiar with kind of the challenges and the things that they go through. And I personally met with them and had an opportunity to hear from them and talk about their concerns. You're also aware that we have had a very competitive proposal that we've put forth that honored those SLPs that have gone through the process of earning their certificate of clinical competency. And we also recognize those with less credentials who also face the daily challenges of being an SLP. However, we need to make sure that we balance the issue of more pay and caseloads, and so we need to make sure that we have funding available to address the shortage that we have and attract more SLPs as well. So we have the competing needs of more money, which we do have a proposal out that we do believe is competitive, and we also have to hold out some funding to make sure that we can hire some more people to reduce their caseload. So we are very much aware of the challenges and are working to do everything we can as quickly as possible to address those challenges, and we do appreciate their work. We know that they work extremely hard, and we certainly want to make things right for you all.
All right. Okay. Moving on to reports, the Educational Foundation, Ms. Carmen.
Chairman, board members, superintendent, Apple Mart has had 537 teacher visits to date, and we've distributed $40,275, and those numbers are running 18% above last year. We have an additional $13,000 in grant dollars for Duke Energy and CTE, so we sent out a second round of grants, and that deadline's on March 26th. The Scott Strong Clay Shoot on February 22nd was extremely successful, and we netted $27,000 on a first-time event. So we have scheduled that event for February 28th of next year. The Rookie Teacher of the Year celebration is Wednesday night, March 13th, and our finalists include Cindy Torger Bandy from Cypress Ridge Elementary, Dawson Shriver from East Ridge High School, and Ashley Lantis from Windy Hill Middle. The event is presented by CFE Credit Union, which is soon to become Addition Financial. Upcoming events include Night of Stars on April 17th, the Top Scholar Luncheon on April 25th, the Retirement Party on May 17th, and Ladies for Education on June 7th. We've selected the 2019 Stepping Out for Education stars, and they include Nan Cobb from Cobb Tractor, Elise Morris from Ernie Morris Enterprise, Jim Miller from ERA Grizzard, Representative Sabatini, and Chief Chuck Broadway from Claremont, and our very own Superintendent of Schools, Diane Cornegay. They will be performing live on July 26th and 27th. And historically, we have sold dress rehearsal. And this year, we've decided to give it to our all 47 nominees for Teacher of the Year. So that award's already been made to them. And speaking of Jim Miller, I was in Tallahassee last week working with our legislators, and we had an awards banquet last Thursday, and there are 12,000 volunteers in the state of Florida that volunteer under educational foundations, and we submitted Jim Miller, who won Volunteer Florida Excellence in Volunteering Award for the state of Florida. Lake County seems to be racking it in with school board members and Take Stock alumni for winning the state, not to mention our Teacher of the Year. Speaking of Take Stock, we're in the final phase of vetting the applications for the class of 2023. We plan to award 46 scholarships in May. And tomorrow night, we have a first-time ever event to raise some dollars in Sumter County. As you recall, we are Take Stock in Lake and Sumter County. And so we have a Sumter Has Talent contest tomorrow night. And we have 10 seniors competing with vocals, so we're real excited for that first-time event. The Take Stock Senior Breakfast is April 30th, and the contract signing is May 14th. Both of these events are sponsored by Insight Credit Union, and I'd like to invite Melanie Hayes, who's representing the Credit Union Foundation, up to the podium. And Melanie has spent her entire day with fourth graders chaperoning a trip to St. Augustine. So thank you for being here, Melanie. Connie applied for funding to supplement our college tours and our career speed dating event. And they graciously awarded us $2,000 to sponsor those two events. The next foundation board meeting is March the 27th in the district office, and our strategic planning retreat is scheduled for May 8th. Any questions? No? Thank you.
All right, Mr. Attorney.
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have no unfinished business, so we're moving on to the new business consent agenda. Superintendent?
Recommend approval of consent agenda items 8.01 to 10.18.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. Moving on to discussion, 11.01, the report from Cypress Ridge Elementary regarding naming the new cafeteria after Dennis Reed.
With that report is Principal Mr. Scott Boyko.
All right. Good evening, Board. On Tuesday, February 26th, we had a public hearing to discuss the naming of our new cafeteria that's going in to be named after Cypress Ridge's first principal, Dennis Reed. And at the meeting, we had 15 people in attendance. All 15 people voted to dedicate the new Cypress Ridge cafeteria in honor of Mr. Dennis Reed. Mr. Dennis Reed was the initial principal of Cypress Ridge Elementary, and I believe he served on the school board as well. And I'd like to read just a couple of comments that came out from that hearing. One of our teachers had said that it was Mr. Reed's idea to create an elementary magnet school that focused on math, science, and technology. The school was created to help alleviate overcrowding at Claremont Elementary School and Mineola Elementary School, and he solicited input from teachers, parents, and the community. He had a vision for STEM schools before STEM was a thing. Mr. Reed was a type of leader who people really wanted to work for. He attracted teachers and families to his vision. Mr. Reed was open and accessible to staff, students, and parents. His strong administrative leadership set the course for Cypress Ridge to become a leader in Lake County. And a third comment that stood out was the majority of faculty came from Mineola Elementary, where he was the principal at the time, yet teachers and parents who came from all other schools were included heavily in the planning of Cypress Ridge. He didn't expect anything from teachers that he wasn't willing to give himself. And I know several of our teachers who helped start the school, along with Mr. Reed, they all kept their jobs. I believe it was the year before the school was founded, all had their jobs, but then after work, they would all meet together to help plan and make sure Cypress Ridge was a success when it opened. So it was all extra work that our original teachers and our principal put in back in the 90s and helped make Cypress Ridge what it was today. And I believe Mr. Reed passed away this past year, and several of our teachers have brought it to us to name our new cafeteria after Mr. Reed.
I think this is great. You might have anything to say?
I wanted to mention that I didn't have the pleasure of knowing Mr. Reed, but Karen West is a gem, and she wrote, I don't know if she wrote all the board members, she didn't mention, she did write at me and recommended him heartily, and she volunteers so much time towards our schools that I think that's a very high recommendation on top of all of the other ones that he has gotten, so I'm in favor of this.
He was my varsity baseball coach my senior year whenever he was the PE coach at Treadway Elementary. So I've known Coach Reed. I called him at that. Every time I saw him, that's what I called him, was Coach. And he was very, very much student-oriented. I mean, he would go and pull money out of his own bank account to give us baseball players to have something to eat on away trips. And that was outstanding, for someone to do something like that. But Coach was all about the schools and whenever he took over Cypress Ridge, he was all about that. So I think this is great. It's outstanding. All right. We need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Are we moving for it now?
Is this not a motion?
We don't need a motion on this.
I am recommending approval.
Recommendation from the superintendent.
It wasn't under.
I am recommending approval of the request to name the new cafetorium at Cypress Ridge Elementary in honor of Mr. Dennis Reed.
So moved.
Second?
All right, again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. 11.02, motion to rescind. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. At the school board meeting on February 25th, 2019, there was a vote to approve a consent agenda item. The vote was unanimous. It was a contract for the utilization of a bid from another source for generators. After the meeting, there was information that was provided that was not known at the time, and a board member has requested this be placed on the agenda for the possibility of rescinding the vote. The rescinding will take a motion, a second, and a majority vote to do so.
Can we have some explanation?
So Natalie, can you hand these out? Oh. So I'll start with laying the groundwork for what happened. At the African Heritage Parade, that my booth, as I pulled up, the one in front of me was a fellow by the name of Jerry Cobb. Jerry Cobb has the contract to maintain our generators. And so, like any conversation, we went through a whole litany of, well, if you know Jerry Cobb, he'll speak a lot. So he told me all about all of our generators. And we have apparently 11. And he told me the story of us buying a generator at one location where the radiator had to come from England. And when it was found to be defective, it took a couple months, right? 2 or 3 months to get it in. And so that focused me on, and it so happens I read board docs the next day, and there it is, we're buying generators, 6 of them. And I remember distinctly Jerry saying of the 11 generators, 5 are Cummings, which is a manufactured generator in the United States. The generators that were on the state bid and that we were approving are CAT. And CAT is also a very good manufacturer of generators and big equipment. The issue came up for me was it was shared that the generators were made in Brazil. You'll see what I've handed out is the emails between myself and the representative from CAT. Initially, the representative said that the generators are made in Brazil, but they also can be made in the U.S. And I spoke to Mr. Carr, and that we were going to add that to the purchase order, that we wanted generators made in the U.S. because of parts availability. And by the way, I happen to be a Buy American guy, so it all fit. He came back after the vote and sent me the email that said that he had made a mistake and the generators are made in Brazil only. Again, it gets back into the parts conversation. And so I spoke to Mr. Carr. The rep, if you read through here, is pretty apologetic and is putting the purchase order on hold until we made a decision. So that's where it kind of sat. I had the opportunity to sit with Mr. Carr, who has developed a comprehensive program for maintaining these generators. And for anybody who owns a generator, you don't realize that it's not working until it's not working. And so and until you need it, by the way. And so Mr. Carr being proactive, not only is Mr. Cobb, who taught at what is now Lake Tech, diesel and generator mechanics, he also is a very strong advocate for Lake County schools, and he is working with Mr. Carr to develop a comprehensive service program. And so I had the opportunity to sit in and listen to that conversation and speak about Cummings, which we have 5 in the district right now, and what that would mean as far as maintaining the same parts, the same filters, all that kind of business. And so I received and by the way, the CAT generators, it's an 18-week lead time. The Cummings, which is the preferred vendor for these generators, is 11 weeks, and it's made in the United States. So the parts are readily available, and it certainly fits my shoes when it comes to the integrity of product and the integrity of buying American. And so I'm asking the board, since we voted, all of us, it was on the consent agenda, so we were all the prevailing vote, I'm able to bring it up under Robert's rules to ask us, based on this new information, and Mr. Dodd, you're familiar with new information that changes a vote perhaps, that I'm asking that you would vote to rescind that contract, and we let Mr. Carr go out with procurement to secure the American-made generators.
I used to work for a company that was military contracting, and everything we did had to be built in the USA. I'm obviously a fan of built in the USA and buy local, but do we have that legal right to prefer local?
We have as a requirement that the generator be made in the United States, and so for parts access and availability, yes, you can include that as a condition to the purchase order.
Okay.
You can't just go to Cummins unless Cummins is as a sole source for what you're trying to do.
Right.
But, I mean, you're going to have to go back out to some sort of bid or buy it piggyback off of another government entities. But, yes, I mean, that's possible to do.
So what is the plan for that then? Would we go back out for another bid or?
That procurement, it's my understanding, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that our procurement, we originally acquired those off the state bid, the CAT units. We now are going to go out for our own bid with procurement, and it's a 2-week process, correct? Yeah.
Yes, we have, the 2-week process would be an invitation to bid where we would write the specs and come in, but it's been brought to our attention that after we did the initial bid solicitation, the vendor or the supplier, or there is a supplier of the Cummins diesel engines that operate the generator are now on the Sourcewell state bid.
Oh, good. It's even better. Okay, it's even easier then.
Okay.
Is this, John, are y'all in agreement?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thanks.
No, I don't agree with him. No, it's almost like we got married. Yeah.
If they're on the state bid already, we'll still have to go out for the RFP.
No, not if it's on the state bid.
Okay, so you just automatically go with them?
You can, yes, piggyback off of them.
Because it's a piggyback.
But we have to rescind this first.
That's
So
correct.
I'd like to make a motion that we rescind that initial vote,
So,
which needs a second from somebody.
Oh, second.
Second and a majority vote to pass.
Okay. Anybody second?
Yeah,
I
Christie
second.
did.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries.
Do we need a motion to go forward with the new bid
No,
No,
it's superintendent
Should bring that as a recommendation.
bring that
at the
back.
next meeting?
Well, whenever they've completed the process.
Once they do the
Oh, okay.
process and everything, they'll bring it back to us again. All right, moving on to superintendent report.
I would like to welcome Ms. Pam Jones. She's the aide with Congressman Daniel Webster, and Samantha Surden from Congressman Ross Spano's office for being here this evening. Thank you both for being here. Always great to see you. I also want to take a moment to address the issue of teacher retention, which was highlighted in the Daily Commercial over the weekend. And while I appreciate the reporter highlighting an issue that districts all over the country are dealing with, I do want to clarify a few points specific to Lake County. The article mentions 7 schools where teacher turnover was high in the 17-18 school year, and it states that we are working to address the issue. The article further states that LCEA leadership theorized that the problem in those schools is management. Now, I agree that leadership is important. 3 of the 7 schools with high teacher turnover last year have new principals this year. 1 has a principal who has been there for only 2 years, and the other 3 have outstanding leaders who, with district supports, are meeting the academic needs of their students as well as the needs of their teachers. For the LCEA president to say that our school's leadership is partly to blame, however, he has no evidence to support that position except at one of the 7 schools is unfair, and honestly, it's extremely disappointing. Even at the 1 school he mentions, there is not sufficient evidence to support this claim. Teachers leave schools for many reasons, some beyond our control, such as certification, retirement, their family, and new opportunities, and others for reasons that we can control, such as the school's climate and culture, and the non-renewal of teachers for poor performance. Teaching students from predominantly low-income families and students who are English language learners can be very challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Having the best teachers in our high-need schools is extremely important. That's why I recently had a conversation with LCA leadership about prioritizing a plan to incentivize great teachers to teach and stay in our highest need schools. One of the first things I learned about Lake County from my meetings with teachers and stakeholders all across the county was that Lake County is a family and we take care of each other. And I am committed to this family, working with teachers and leaders to make Lake a destination district, the place where everyone wants to be. We have to continue to do this together as schools and as a community by highlighting what makes us great, focusing on solutions and not the problems, and finding ways to make Lake County schools even better. Thank you. There's just a few other items of interest for this evening. Today started our annual STEAM Bowl. And so fifth grade kicked it off today, and we'll have it every day. Fourth grade's tomorrow, third grade on Wednesday, and we'll wrap it up with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade on Thursday. And so if you have time, come on out to the Wesley Center, and it's always it's a fun event, and the students are always just so amazing. We will celebrate our rookie teacher on Wednesday, as Carmen mentioned, at the evening organized by the Education Foundation, and we look forward to announcing our new Rookie Teacher of the Year at that event. I wanted to let you know that Dr. Weiskopf will be standing in for me at that event. I am leaving tomorrow afternoon. I'll be headed to Tallahassee. I have some legislative meetings for the next several days, and we'll be attending the Spring Superintendent's Association meeting, where we do focus on the legislation and how we're going to address some of the bills that are out there and where we're going to support those along the way. So I'm excited to go up and represent us over the next couple of days. And lastly, just a reminder that spring break is next week. Woohoo! And so I hope that everyone has a great spring break and comes back refreshed and ready to go for the end of the school year. We do have a few letters of condolence. Just this weekend, we had 2 tragic losses here in Lake County. The assistant JV basketball coach at Umatilla High School, Damon Davis, passed away suddenly. And also, we tragically lost a student, a 12th grade student, Landon Sheem, at South Lake High School, who died in a drowning accident. And so our heart goes out. We've had grief counselors there throughout the day. Thank you to Dr. Landry for being out there today with them, and as well as some folks over at Umatilla High School to help with those tragedies. We also have letters of condolence that went to Sherry Owens, our communication officer, which is why she is out today. She is attending the funeral of her cousin, Joshua Dunlap. Also, Linda Muldrow, who's a bus driver in transportation, lost her sister, Latina Doe. And Dehaney Horner is a teacher assistant at Astatula Elementary, and she lost her mother, Faye Bethel. And Rebecca White, who's a teacher at Astatula Elementary, lost her father, John Tabbitt. And so we'd like to remember them. And that's all I have for this evening.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mathias?
I want to first say that Superintendent, with your words, that is amazing leadership, and that we will solve the issues of teacher retention through that kind of positive statement. So thank you to that. So after 6 years on a quest for equity and funding, I do want to share that Senate Bill 190, if you go to line 710, the striking out of 4 words, which is our equity that we had received last year, that expires on whatever, that has been struck. So if it passes, the equity will be permanent, and it will be really good news for Lake County and for 30 other districts. So that's the most exciting thing I have to mention, and that is all.
That's great.
It's hard to follow that. I will highlight this one, I don't know, it's pretty up there. We had a student at Umatilla Middle School take first place at the state science fair for her child car seat infant warning system. Oh, wow. And she does have a GoFundMe page out there, and she is trying to get it patented. And so that's pretty incredible for a seventh grader to take first place at a state science fair competition and have a patent. So I wanted to shout out to Lexi Clow. She extended the project. It was her science fair project from last year that went pretty far, and she furthered the project this year and is on a roll to reach a very high goal. So we are really proud of her in representation of Lake County schools. So thank you.
Right.
In that spirit, we seem to have a recurring theme of what's going on in the STEM world, because this weekend I had a chance to attend the state robotics competition, which I really think they should just move to Lake County, because the number of schools that we had represented there, both at the elementary and middle school, was quite a significant number. And I think perhaps this goes back to a few years ago. I had this observation. It seemed like so many schools were consistently writing the same grant request from the Ed Foundation to start a robotics club or a team, and then we as a board made a commitment that we were going to start helping schools with this. The skills that the students walk away with from designing and engineering and programming through this sort of competition is just unparalleled, and it was fantastic to watch these kids compete at such a, once again, a high caliber level. We've got a few teams who have qualified to go onto the world competition in Kentucky, so I know that we'll end up seeing those come through our agenda in the future to approve those trips. And then today I had a chance to stop by the fifth graders and watch them compete at the Steam Bowl. And once again, that's one of my favorite things, to walk in that room and to see a bunch of 10 and 11-year-olds work together in such a cohesive way was really just as exciting to see as they conquered some of the challenges that they had to face. They really look like perfect little scientists separating mixtures into all the different parts and coming up with ways to do that. You probably would have appreciated that from your chemistry days. It was a great challenge, and then watching them then work with electrical circuits, completely different skill. So really shows the breadth of skills that our students are acquiring in the STEM world. And then also, Superintendent, thank you as well for addressing that retention piece. One of the things that I was reflecting on as I read that, and the number of anonymous folks who were cited in that article, left me with a little bit of pause, and I thought, well, goodness, as I reflect on the culture that I've seen in this county over the last couple of years, what a dramatic shift we've had. And anybody who doesn't see that really needs to take a pause and reflect on that culture shift that we've seen. We have a superintendent out there now going out to do teacher forums, hearing from the teachers. And if I recall, I think one of the observations from the accreditation team that came through was, and they almost wanted to call it a finding, was this uncanny commitment to people that you had. And they almost wanted to call that a weakness. And that's one of our greatest strengths, to commit to the people that we have. And for this impartial accreditation team to come in and notice that, I think speaks volumes of this culture that we're trying to create in this district. And it's a problem that, like you've said, many districts face. The districts all over the country are facing, not even just retaining, but being able to recruit from a talented pool of teachers. We see the shortage that we're facing in hard to fill areas. And I think that we're doing quite a number of things to try to stay in front of that. One piece of that article that I also wanted to draw attention to was that there was a reference that 24% turnover rate, and I didn't want anybody to think that is 24% of the people leaving the district, because when we looked at the presentation on January 7th, we found that there was only 14% of the people leaving the district, and certainly when a district this size, there could be any number of reasons why people might change schools. To get from one end of the county to the other, I know from my end takes more than an hour to get to the other side. So if I was teaching in one place, I would certainly look for a place closer to home. And when we use that 14% statistic, which is accurate of the district, that actually brings us below the national average of the retention. So that's the piece that I think would do injustice if we did not say.
Well done.
Yes, thank you for that. That's excellent information. I did want to thank the speech and language pathologist who came here today. I'm a mother of twins who weren't speaking well to me at all when they were 3 and 4. And I can tell you as a mom who also has children who went through speech therapy that it's critically important. I knew it was important to their future ability to read. I knew it was important just so that I could understand them. They had what we would probably call twin speak. But everyone who wasn't them couldn't understand them. So it was really important that we get that resolved. and clarified, and so that they could be understood by the rest of the world, and so now that they can become good readers, now that they're a little bit older. So I just wanted to let you and all the speech and language pathologists know that myself, this is a priority of mine, but I know it's also a priority of the superintendent and something that we are very much working on. I wanted to thank the superintendent and Dr. Weiskopf and all of the staff for the visits that they're doing to the schools. They're doing focus groups at the schools, which I think you just mentioned. I was able to attend the Carver Middle School focus group, which I found to be very valuable. I found that the teachers were very willing to sit and let us know the problems, let us know what was good, let us know what we need to work on. And I found that invaluable. I think that I'm not going to, I wanted to go to the ones in my district. I'm not going to make every single one of them, but the superintendent and staff are. And I think when we compile all those results, I think they'll be very interesting. One of the things that came up at our school was a need for more funding, or possibly just a need to make sure funding that we have allocated is actually realized and the teachers actually get that funding for science laboratories. So chemistry labs, not STEM per se, but at the high school, science, chemistry, biology, straight up normal labs, so that we don't leave those in the dust while we have fun new programs. And so that might be something we need to look for the budget this year. And finally, I just wanted to say congratulations to Jim Miller for winning Volunteer of the Year, and to all of our Teachers of the Year this year. I really appreciate everything our teachers do. Our semifinalists who made it here today, and our finalists. So thank you.
All right. I just want to say real quick, I appreciate Dr. Burns filling in for me at the last board meeting. I was not pleasant to be here. You would not have liked me. Because you might have caught something I had maybe, so I didn't want to share it, but I appreciate her filling in. Something that I've asked, received a letter from the FSBA, and I would ask consideration of the board if you would allow me to, along with Dr. Burns this year, to be part of the FSBA. The total, it would be $86.10 for both of us versus $43.05. But I just need to know if you're okay with that.
It's your call. I mean, it
Okay.
allows each one of us to make that own.
Can I add on to that? Just,
My moment.
it is your moment.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I just have been, it's been in the back of my head, and I wouldn't be an ideal candidate, but if any of you would be interested in being part of let me see if I can get the letters right, Florida School Board, the one that ends in BM, and I can't have a laugh at that. The Florida Coalition of School Board Members?
The competing members.
Yes, that I think it would be valuable to have somebody in that coalition to understand, because they're bringing a lot of bills forward. So I don't know if that's something any of you guys, because they're competing, so I don't think I would be the right representative to be in, and I don't know if they'd let me in. Yeah.
All right.
How much is that?
I don't know. They're sort of secretive. You need like a
I'll
sponsor.
look into it. I'll bring some information back and I'll let you guys know.
That's one you attend, right?
No, that's the school.
No, that's the.
It's the one Erica Donalds and her son, or
We get a
Representative
lot of
Donalds.
emails from it, from the coalition. We get a lot of emails about it.
Well, one thing I'd be interested in knowing is if the issues are really dramatically different,
Right.
or if they don't align with our own. I think one of the things that we had said when we went out and hired a lobbyist was that we were going to try and save the money to be able to pay for that lobbyist by not continuing all the FSBA fees. Now,
That's 1,000%.
now, if we start joining all these associations again who don't advance our priorities, then we're kind of.
The biggest problem with the FSBA for me was that they never took us serious. And so when the legislature allowed us to not participate, I couldn't wait to get out. So,
Because if it doesn't benefit all 67 districts, they won't support it. And so, they
or
wouldn't
the
support that.
13 biggest, by the way.
That's right, right. So they wouldn't support us on that compression, trying to get the equity back.
That's exactly right.
Whereas we've made
Our
the
own
ground
lobbyists have been
between
successful.
the construction academy and the other.
Right, and Stephanie, if you're, as you're exploring it, I don't even know how many members are in that coalition. And that's, if there's 3 members and they're just making themselves seem big,
no need to join, just, I would like to have a clue.
And I think that also, while everyone makes their own decision about what they're going to do, and I guess I've already been exposed my hand, that I think that the intent was for us to hire a lobbyist, exactly what Mark just said, and that if they don't represent us and yet you join anyway, that I don't know that that's sending the right message. But you do what you want to do.
Well, some of the things I'm looking at, though, is some of the training that they offer.
Hmm?
They do offer the training whenever you go to their events and all. We had a financial training and all in Howie the first time that I was in it. And some of the other training that they offer to give you some background issues is what I was looking at as well. But I mean, this is not something that it's burning in my heart that I got to do. If y'all think it's better that we not do it, I'm fine with it.
Bill wants to do masterboard again.
I'd love to do masterboard because that was so.
Do you want to switch?
I want to switch.
Do you want to have
Well,
you
you wanna
be?
bow out?
I could bow out.
Well, we only
I won't-
put her
I
on
won't
there
be
because we had
hurt.
to maintain a placeholder to get some discount on something or something,
If
right?
you want to do that, I would do
Board
that.
docs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly find their current training that I've gone to particularly valuable.
But the financial thing that we.
That was valuable.
Yes.
Could Mr. Ward do some sort of financial training that would be beneficial, that would save us $4,000, $5,000? However many thousands of dollars it is? I mean, we don't pay him that much, right?
Well,
I don't know.
we're talking about one person staying on the board. And so Christie would bow out.
You're right.
and take her place. Okay.
That makes sense.
All right.
Okay.
You got that, Natalie? Long as Natalie has it, we're in good shape. All right. I have nothing else. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you for being here tonight. Come back next time, same time.